Hey guys, Jam here, and in today's video, as voted by you guys, I'll be kitbashing up a Dark Angels Deathwatch Watchmaster, which is a bit of a mouthful. Now for any of you guys that missed it, I recently challenged We Paint Minis to a little bit of a kitbash off. I think he's kind of coining it as the Kitbash Klash, which sounds a lot better. And yeah, you guys gave us ideas, we kind of rounded it up, then you voted on it. And basically we've got the exact same kind of brief to work off of, but we're just going to see what we come up with. And obviously once you're done watching this video, go over to We Paint Minis channel. I'll have the link in the description below. And then watch his version of this video. And then maybe at some point we'll put a poll up so you guys can vote to see who maybe won. Not that it really matters all that much, it's just for fun. But yeah, let's get straight into my version of the Kitbash. And as you can see on the screen here, as the kids say these days, I thought I was cooking up something pretty cool here, and using this Phobos or Reaver Lieutenant, can't remember which one it is. And I thought the arm I got there, the eye logo on the chest, the cape flowing with his leaping, this all looked really cool. But almost at the end of this Kitbash, I just thought to myself, it doesn't feel Dark Angels, and it doesn't really feel like basically a chapter master vibe for the Deathwatch. Just a bit too tactical, I guess. But yeah, so I kind of scrapped this dude and I'm going to start on something completely fresh. But before we start showing that, maybe comment below what I should do with this body I've built here for maybe a future project, because I think it's still worth using. So as you can see, I kind of settled on the Gravis Captain model. One, because he comes with a little servo skull, which the Watchmaster has, but also he has a kind of big, chunky, stoic kind of vibe to him. In my mind, it just feels like he would match something that would be like a Chapter Master. So my first step was to kind of cut off that iron halo thing on top of his head. It's not really the vibe that I wanted. And I got some of the old Deathwing Knight sprues lying around, so I cut off these little iron halo slash camera thingamabobbers that go on top of the head. So I literally just sliced that off and glued on top of this model. And the reason why I went for this, well, one, it gives me the Dark Angel vibe, but Deathwatch also have that kind of techie technology thing, so this has a lot of obviously cameras and sensors and stuff built into it, so it kind of helps that as well. And I know I probably shouldn't say this because maybe you'll not be able to unsee it, but after I glued that on, it kind of made me think of like Mickey Mouse ears. So hopefully at the end it doesn't look like that anymore, but at the time I was like, oh, did I just mess this up? Now, one of the most defining features of a Watchmaster is he's the only Space Marine model that has a Guardian Spear, which, if you don't know, is the weapon that the Custodies use, you know, the Emperor's Bodyguard. So it's quite unique and special that this guy has that. And luckily I have quite a few Custodies lying around, so I just grabbed one of those for this dude. But in order to use it, I just used the arm that comes in with the Gravis Captain that has the giant chainsword, and I just gently cut the chainsword out because, you know, I might want to use it one day. And yeah, just another one that's quite easy, and just glued it on. I mean, it took a bit of back and forth with cutting and trimming around the wrist area just to make sure it fit nicely, but yeah, it's all working out quite nicely so far. And speaking of the Guardian Spear, they come with a lot of filigree and stuff like that, which looks a little bit too fancy for Space Marines. Like, it just looks very custody. So I just took a really sharp hobby knife and just very gently just sliced all that away, and then flipped my knife just to kind of scrape the plastic smooth. And then, speaking of scraping plastic down, the Gravis Captain shoulder pad on the right comes with that little kind of captain-y skull logo. But obviously, this being a Deathwatch, he needs his chapter logo on that arm, so I just used my hobby knife to, again, gently scrape that embossed kind of logo away. Just taking my time to try and make sure it's nice and smooth. And then later we'll be adding in a decal or a transfer, whatever you want to call them. And as you can see here, always a little helpful tip when you're carving up plastic is to have some really thin plastic glue and just kind of run it across some places to kind of melt and smooth the plastic a little bit more. And one last thing I had to do to the shoulder pad was just slowly cut little bits of the cloth away, because I put those little bunny ears on the guy, and they were kind of pushing the shoulder away, so I had to kind of, like I said, slowly carve away at the cloth of the cape until that could fit in nicely. Now this is a very small detail, but for some reason I thought it was really cool. The Gravis captain has a belt across his chest that holds his cape. Now the model comes with a little buckle you can put on there and all that kind of stuff, but I thought, because Deathwatch are all about pouches and bandoliers and stuff like that, I just sliced off the little nub where the belt buckle would go. I just got one of these bullet shell holders. It might be from the Deathwatch Veterans kit, might be from the Revis kit, not 100% sure. But yeah, I just kind of cut bits in here until it fit on there really nicely. So like I said, he's got that kind of bandolier-esque kind of thing. He's got some extra shells, but also it ties in perfectly with that little belt across the chest, so it actually looks like it's holding the cape together. But my next step was to do a bit of green stuffing. I want this guy to have a loincloth, you know, giving them more Dark Angels-y vibe, but I had to trim away some of the little built-in trinkets on the guy, so just use my hobby knife to just kind of roughly cut it away because it's going to be covered up anyway. But yeah, this step is pretty easy, so you just want to get your green stuff, nice 50-50 between the yellow and blue. Roll that bad boy up, and I just use a paintbrush to kind of rolling pin it out. Then as you can see here, I just kind of used my hobby knife to cut it to the length and everything that I wanted and the shape, but also kind of cut a circular shape at the top so it kind of goes around and flows around like the torso of the model, or hips I should say. Then I just use my silicone color shapers to kind of just move the green stuff where I want it, make sure it's nice and pressed in around the rope around his hips. And then what I do to kind of get a bit of a ripple and a flow to the center of the green stuff, I just put a wet toothpick in the center and I use my color shaper just to press the green stuff around it. So like I said, it creates that ripple effect. I will also use a wet paintbrush here and there to, one, help the shape, but also to kind of smooth out the green stuff to get rid of any marks that I didn't want. Now, while I had the green stuff out, I decided to slap some fur on his cape. Now, initially you might think that's a bit of a weird choice, but I was kind of referencing the Horus Heresy style of Dark Angels, where quite a few of the characters would have some sort of like beastie mantles on their shoulders, like the lion has fur like a beast on his shoulders. Can't remember the other guy's name, but there's a few Dark Angels anyway that have fur and pelts and stuff like that strapped on them, so I kind of wanted to go for that vibe. So not going to go too in depth on how I do my green stuff fur here, because I've got like a whole video and a short on it, so I'll link them below. But yeah, I thought this would be a nice way to tie it into that Horus Heresy vibe, but also just help make the model look a little bit different. Now the next thing was his left arm, and I was really struggling with this one. I was playing around with just his arm being just stretched out to the left or holding a pistol or something like that. But then one of my Patreon members suggested, why isn't he just holding a Xeno head? So yeah, I had this little Necron dude lying around, and I just sliced the neck / back of his head off of his shoulders. I'll do a bit of trimming here and there, just to get his head ready to get glued into a hand. But before I can kind of assemble everything, I gotta sort out an arm. And another thing that's really unique to Deathwatch Watchmasters is that they've got this kind of special computery wrist attachment. I can't remember what it's actually called, but it basically kind of acts as like a lock for any door, and it does a lot of extra different things. So yeah, I can help them access the depths of their secret bases and all that kind of stuff. So I got this arm with this like big chunky kind of computer thing, and I'm just going to slice the hand off and the arm off and just keep the kind of center console kind of Pip-Boy thing. And as you can see here, I glued a new hand on it, one with a, well, open outstretched fingers, because it'll be grasping onto that Necron skull. And I glued two little tiny antenna-like things to the side of the little computer bit just to try and match the Games Workshop Watchmaster model. Doesn't really look the same as what the legit model has, but that would require quite a lot of finessey sculpting to get done, so this little giant computery tech arm will have to do. And then to get the Necron skull on there, but for it to actually look like he's holding onto it, I just kind of dry fitted the skull every now and again, but then I'd take my tweezers and just slowly bend the tips of the fingers around and then bring the skull back to see if it fits and just do that back and forth. Just not breaking the fingers. But yeah, eventually got it to a point where it looks like he's really grasping onto the skull. And now, as you can see here, the Necron skull is on. It's looking pretty good. I've attached a little Deathwing Terminator's knife to his little ropey belt thing. And I've also taken a Deathwing Knight's hooded head and I've just slapped that in there as well. It just fit in there perfectly, and again, it gives me that really, really strong Dark Angels vibe. Now, conveniently, Dark Angels and Deathwatch share something in common, and that's being kind of very secretive and a lot of keys that open certain doors and kind of that kind of stuff. So I got this key over here from the Ultramarine Psychic guy. Oh, his name slipped my brain. I could look it up, but who cares? It's an Ultramarine, right? And then all I did with that was I just bent the keyring bit a little bit just so it kind of fits around the armor, and I just glued that on. Again, it just kind of fits that Deathwatch, Watchmaster, and the Dark Angel vibe together. And speaking of Dark Angels vibe, I got this kind of incense burner lantern kind of thing from one of the old Dark Angels kits. Might have been one of the upgrade sprues or something like that. And yeah, it pretty much fit there on the back of the backpack pretty perfectly. Yeah, I felt like the front of the model was really busy and quite heavy, and the back didn't have anything really going on. So yeah, I just wanted something on the back that just kind of, well, give it a bit more detail, but also a bit more chunk to it. And then swinging all the way back to the Deathwatchy side of things, I have some of these Firstborn like chest plates lying around that have a little Inquisition eye on them. And they were the perfect size, if I can cut them out nicely, to go on either side of his bolt gun case. So yeah, I just used my hobby knife and I just, like I said, very gently, because these are very small, slice those off the model. It took a lot more work than it sounds, because I had to cut between the little like grooves in the eye and all that kind of stuff like that. But in the end, it was worth it, because yeah, it helped me really nail down that Inquisition-y Deathwatch feeling, especially with this very unique weapon. Right, so the last step was putting some feathers on this guy. Feathers seem to be a recurring theme on Dark Angels. I'm not really sure the lore behind that, but it looks really cool and something I like to do on my Dark Angels. By the way, I've done a whole video on creating a Dark Angels army from box to battlefield, so I'll link that up now if you want to check that out after this video as well. But yeah, I just get a tiny bit of green stuff, I roll it out, flatten it quite nice and thin. Then I just take my hobby knife and cut it into the kind of rough, kind of feathery shape that I wanted. And then I take my hobby knife again and I just kind of press in little cuts here and there so it looks like the hairs of the feather are kind of splaying out. But I also use my hobby knife just to push little indentations, not cutting all the way through, just so there's grooves and stuff for when I'm painting, so like the paint can sit there and the wash can go into the grooves and all that kind of stuff. And I do the same for the center of the feather as well, kind of creating that vein through the middle of the feather. It's a really, really super easy thing to do, and it just creates a lot of character for the model, especially once it's painted up. Now at first I was just going to do one feather, but it didn't look right to me, so I just overlaid another one on top of it. Now with that all being said, that's pretty much the entire model kitbashed. Yeah, I'm going to go slap some paint on this bad boy to bring him to life, and then I'll see you on the other side. Well, there you have it, ladies and gents, in all his Deathwatch, Watchmaster, Dark Angels, Duty, Secret Glory, I guess. Yeah, working title. And yeah, what did you guys think? You know, let me know in the comments below if you think this guy nails the Deathwatch vibe, nails the Dark Angels vibe, and does he also nail the leader of the Deathwatch as well? So like I said, there's quite a lot of things you had to merge on this model, and I'm hoping I got there. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, go check out We Paint Mini's version of this. I'm going to go watch it now as well. I'm super interested to see what he did, because like I said, we had the same theme, but I'm guessing we're going to go completely different ways. Especially with paint jobs and stuff like that. I think We Paint Minis is a lot more of a cleaner kitbasher and painter than I am. I'm a bit more messy, I guess. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It all really helps the channel out massively. And if you do want to go that extra step further, I do also have YouTube membership and Patreon as well. If you want to chuck a couple dollary dues out there to help me keep my bits box full, it really helps the channel out. But until the next one, guys, bye bye.